maybe a lot of 72s or whatever the case may be.
We'll talk about that in a second. So we're gonna move on though to a team I'm interested to hear from Dave. We're finally here, Virginia Tech. Only took about 3 hours and 50 minutes, but we're here. Virginia Tech, man. And I thought Virginia Tech is funny because they got a new head coach, James Franklin. And what does James Franklin do? I know I took your job, but how about you come be a DC for me? Brent Pry is the DC for Virginia Tech. Crazy. And their OC is Ty Howell, who was the Penn State co-OC from 2023 to 2025. So he brought over his guy basically because that's what James Franklin is coming from, Penn State. So interested to see how this works. But I will say this: I do think James Franklin will have Virginia Tech not back to prominence of 01 Vic. Or 99, that was 01, right? When they went to the Natty?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I ain't going to say that.
When they played Florida State.
But I think that he can take Virginia Tech and bring them to where they'll be in some big games. Like, games will matter in the season. Like, this isn't like, oh, we're playing Virginia Tech. Oh, this might not matter. I think some of these might be some ACC games, like ACC championship implication games at one point that James Franklin can bring them to. Because he's going to be recruiting the same area he did at Penn State. Now, do I think it's this year? I can tell you right now, no. But I can see it in the near future. So I do think they're better than they think they will be better than this 3-9, 2-6 season that they're coming off of. And they do lose Kyron Drones, which I told y'all I was never so old on Kyron Drones.
You did. That's for sure.
They returned 14 starters though, which I was very surprised. And then I had to think, well, James Franklin he got cachet as the head coach, so I had to dial it back a little bit. But in this era of NIL stuff, you never know. But 14, I think that's the most starters returning in the ACC. As a matter of fact, I don't even think. I know that's the most. That's the biggest number I said. But 8 on the offensive side of the ball, 4 being O-line. So they return skill and O-line production, which is really good. And 6 on the defensive end. Namely, is Marcellus Hawkins, who had 118 carries, 749 yards, and 6.3 a carry, and a touchdown, which is kind of crazy. But Aiden Green, the receiver, had 516 yards, 3 touchdowns on 31 catches. And Takei Heath, a receiver, had 22 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Benji Ghostnell, a tight end who had 12 catches for 86 yards and no touchdowns. Now, defensively, they bring back Noah Chambers, a linebacker with 43 total tackles and 2 pass breakups and a sack. Kamari Copeland, a D lineman with 4.5 sacks and a pick. Tyson Flowers, a safety with 2 pass breakups and a forced fumble and 48 total tackles. Isaiah Brown-Murray, a cornerback with 5 pass breakups and a pick. Thomas Williams, a cornerback with 32 total tackles, 6 pass breakups, and a fumble recovery. El-Hajj Fall, a D lineman with 2.5 sacks and a forced fumble. Again, they lose Kyron Jones, who had 17 touchdowns to 9 picks, a 56.5 completion percentage, but he brought 644 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns with them. He is currently on the Packers. Donovan Green, a receiver with 274 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 catches. Caleb Woodson, a linebacker who transferred to Alabama, who had 57 total tackles. Jaden Keller, a linebacker with 50 total tackles, a pass breakup and a forced fumble on the Jets. Isaiah Cash, a safety with 41 total tackles and a pick. And Ben Bell, an edge with 2.5 sacks. Anything else? I know, Dave, I'm going to give you the floor. Talk to me about Virginia Tech.
Man, look, I know y'all been waiting for this segment when it comes to Virginia Tech, but I'm high on Virginia Tech because of what James Franklin has done at what he did at Penn State. I think for some reason, I think this is going somewhat under the radar, but he brought in a lot of guys from Penn State that were pretty good, and he has a lot of other good transfers that came in as well. And I think a lot of that's going to have to do with how well they play this year. Now, I know it's his first season in the ACC, but the ACC is not. I mean, it's not the Big Ten. The Big Ten is a tougher conference than the ACC is. That's just be honest about it. That doesn't count MSU. Sorry, but
hey, hold on, bro. That was unnecessary.
It's very tough.
Hold, Ace. Very unnecessary, bro. Like, we had to do it. Yes, I know we've been trashed the last 3 years.
But honestly, the Big Ten is one of the. I mean, they've won the last few national championships.
They won to the last three.
Last three.
Yeah, last three. Won the last
Indiana,
three.
Ohio
They even just
State.
went to.
Yeah, Indiana, Ohio State, and Michigan. Before Michigan was Georgia, I believe. 1-2 straight.
Might have been. But they won the last three national championships. I mean, so they're up there. And Penn State was in that conference. And Penn State has shown they can beat almost anybody outside of the Big Ten. It couldn't be Ohio State for real. They couldn't really beat Michigan. So those are the teams that they struggled against.
They were in games with them.
Yeah, they were in games with him, but they just couldn't get over the hump. And I don't think he's going to have that big of an issue outside of SMU and Miami in the first season. So I think James Franklin is some really good attitude and a really good football team over Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech is going to be really good this year.
Clemson, too. I think you forgot about Clemson. But I say this, too, to your point. They did just make the Big Ten championship in 2024. They lost to Oregon. And it was because of Drew LR.
Yeah.
And they made matter of fact, screw all that. They made the national championship semifinal, the college football player semifinals. They lost to Notre Dame in the semis.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel you. I do. I respect how you feel about James Franklin. Now, James Franklin's issue is winning the big one. That has always followed him. Yep. Winning against high-ranked teams, big games, things of that nature. But I think that Virginia Tech, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think Virginia Tech will just take being in those big games. Then once you get them consistently being in the big games, you got to start winning them. But at first, they just want to be in those big games again.
Yep.
All right. With that being said, Ace, you got anything to say about Virginia Tech? I know you was all interested about how Dave felt.
Well, yeah, I think Dave brings up a great point there. They are bringing in an influx of a lot of talent and better talent that has been there, especially when you look at last year. And I do think it's something to be said about the competition that they're going to be going against. That yes, they're not going to be playing the Oregons, the Ohio States, the Michigans, and teams of that ilk. However, ACC ball sneak up on you, man. Like it be a ton of games where you think you're gonna win, and then it just don't be your day. And I think more so to that point, I think that the continuity may be a thing as far as Virginia Tech, and I do think that the players coming in from Happy Valley will help speed that along. But I do think there is going to be a bit of a transition period. And granted, I don't think that they're going to be a bad team necessarily. I think they're going to be more organized, possibly more physical. I am a believer of what James Franklin can bring to a program when I look at what he did at Vandy and when I look at what he did at Penn State. But I do think that it may take another year or two in order to have it take its full shape. But I do think they'll have some good moments in this year for sure.
I was going to say, you got the track record for sure. For sure got the track record with this past few teams. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not completely high on Virginia Tech this year per se, but down the line, I can see it for sure. But Speaking of what he's done, got some transfers to go over. He was 26th overall recruiting class, which by itself is already high for Virginia Tech. And then 27th in transfers with 27 transfers, funny enough. Main one being Ethan Gronkmeyer, quarterback he brings over from Penn State. He brings over a lot of talent from Penn State. I didn't write a lot of it down. I'm pretty sure y'all will help me out with that. But 123 of 178, 69.1% completion percentage, 1,339 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. Took over when Drew LR got hurt and led them to the Pinstripe Bowl, which they did win.
Mm-hmm.
Keyshawn Brown, receiver from Duke, 64 catches, 846 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Bill Davis, a running back, 158 carries, 767 yards, 4.9 a carry, and 6 touchdowns. From University of Louisiana Lafayette, Jaquez White, a quarterback from Troy, who had 67 total tackles, was really freaking high for a cornerback. 11 pass breakups, 3 picks, and a pick 6. And then Cam Chadwick, a cornerback from UConn, who had 4 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, and 66 total tackles. My fault. And Keon Wiley, a linebacker from Penn State, who had a sack and 28 total for that I didn't talk about.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Luke Reynolds. He was the number 2 portal tight end. I think he's going to be huge for Virginia Tech coming over here. Of course, he got continuity with Ethan, so that's going to help him out a lot. And then Eric Mensah, the defensive tackle from Ohio State, He actually was a commit to Virginia Tech out of high school, and now he's coming back, and he still has 3 years eligibility left. So I think those are going to be 2 key players for this team this year.
Ace?
Yeah, I think they have a ton of pretty good transfers coming in. Like he said, you got Luke Reynolds, Ethan Bruckmeyer coming over. You have Kenny Wolesley, and just a great amount of talent coming in. It's definitely Justin Terry from Ohio State, Quashawn Brown, like we brought up earlier, Michael Troutman III from Penn State as well. I think that there are a bunch of players in a bunch of different position groups that will elevate the play of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So some numbers from last year. 95th in total offense, 71st in total defense, tied 111th in scoring offense, 105th in scoring defense, 117th in passing, 81st in pass defense, 34th in rushing, 75th in rush defense, tied 71st in third down percentage on offense, 37th in red zone offense, and 128th out of 134 in red zone defense. Horrendous red zone defense for Virginia Tech. Definitely look for that to turn around. But without further ado, the schedule. First game against Virginia Military Institute in James Franklin's Virginia Tech debut, I have as a win.
Win.
The win.
At home against Old Dominion, taking Old Dominion plus the points if I'm not in Virginia. I have a win.
Win.
A win.
On the road against Maryland, Tomo, cover your ears because I have this as a loss.
Ooh.
I have Maryland winning at home. Y'all have this as a win?
I have it
I
as
got
well.
it as- I got it as a win for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm the only one that have this as a loss. I kind of expect Coach Keith went deep again. That is crazy. I kind of expected maybe to have the only one that have as a loss for Maryland. But Maryland got some talent coming back.
You like Malik Washington?
Yeah. I mean, if Loxley could finally put something together, Maryland might, I ain't going to say be dangerous or compete for nothing, but they could be pesky, I'll say.
Yeah, sure.
I'm all for Maryland slander, by the way. But next is at Boston College. I have this as a win.
I have as a win.
I have as a win.
At home against Pitt, I have as a win.
I have as a win.
I have as a loss.
On the road against Cal, I have as a loss.
I have as a win.
I have as a loss.
At home against Georgia Tech, I have as a win.
I have as a win.
I have as a loss.
On the road against Clemson, I have as a loss.
I have as a win.
I have as a loss.
On the road against SMU, I have as a loss.
I have as a loss.
Loss.
At home against Stanford, we all have this as a W.
Yep.
Yep.
We all have this next game as a loss. On the road against Miami.
Yep.
And then at home against UVA, I have as a win.
I have as a win.
So I have Virginia Tech going 7-5, 5-4, taking the over 6.5 by the hook win total.
I have them going 10-2, 7-2 ACC play.
That is hilarious. You got Virginia Tech doing what Ace got Virginia doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty funny. I have them going 6-6, 3-6 in conference play.
Yeah,
You
I
got
believe
James Franklin starting off with a bang.
I believe Virginia Tech a lot more than
Yeah. You got him going crazy. 10-2 off the first season, transfers and all. Ooh, I don't want to see it.
Hey, look, I almost said that they'll
What
give him
was
the
their
statue.
conference? What was their conference record?
He had him going 7-2.
Almost in the shit, man.
Only 2 losses I have is SMU and Miami.
Too close for comfort.
I'm going to say this. They're not going to give him a statue because obviously Coach Beamer is the one that deserves the statue.
Mm-hmm.
They might give him a sidewalk or a street name. He goes 10-2, 7-2 his first year.
Nah, for sure. They're going to give him something.
Yeah, he's going to get something for that one. That'd be, dang, we just went Yardy again. I'm sorry, Tigers still playing with 5-8. But last school, and that is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who came off of a surprise for me anyway, season of 8-4, 4-4. They did win the bowl game where I say, if you won, did you really win? And that's the Duke's Mayo Bowl, beating Mississippi State, who was